All right, so let's get going here. Of course, we have we have an almost full moon. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube in the future, hello. I hope the moon is still around and beautiful. But if we're haunting ghosts of the past and the moon is fractured and molten, well, here's a picture of it. This is what it used to be back in our day. And what's being talked about in chat as well. So IMW here printed out an alien egg dice roller and has been going through the process of painting it. And my goodness, it looks visceral. It very much does. And now, is this the Mod Podge that you were using, or is this a like a water effect gloss that you're putting on there? But this for sure is just as wonderful and goopy as an alien egg should look. I mean, it's clear resin. Okay, all right, excellent. Yeah, that's definitely a place to keep your stress dice. It it very much does. Yeah, I know that Mod Podge 4 weeks. Where the resin is that UV resin? Can you just shine a light in there, or is it an air drying variety? Air. Okay. Then IMW, keep us posted. That's a fantastic piece that you're making. Pardon me. All right, where were we? Ah, yes. Death. Dice in space. We had gone over the basics. Build your dice pool, roll it, check for successes. If none, you can either accept failure or push. And if you push, you get a little bit more stressed. And stress is a core mechanic to this game. So if you're watching this compartmentalized on YouTube, it's the prior video in the playlist. I don't know how to do the fancy stuff on YouTube. I make a playlist and hopefully you can figure it out. I'm terrible at this. I'm sorry, but thank you all who do watch on YouTube, by the way. Which in chat, there you go. If you're not already a subscriber, oh, the bot is down. That's right. It's still down from when we tried doing shoutouts. Stream Elements. Ah. Oh well. It's on our Discord. Exclamation! I proceed to do the same thing. All right. Exclamation point Discord. All right. Anyway, we were talking about the next stage of rolling. We're not talking about just, starting an engine, fixing a wheel. We're not talking about the basics, the use of your skills, and we understand that now, right? Now things are gonna get a little bit more intense. Okay? And this is actually one step ahead for stealth mode, because we are going to be looking back at combat and panic. This is going to be our big next section. Making that egg was not planned for the stream. I just happened to print it the day before because things are slow. I wanted to add more to my portfolio. Yeah, you're doing a good job of it, IMW. And I'm glad it coincided. You're all gonna die. Only question is how you check out. Do you want it on your feet? Or on your F-bomb knees, begging? Fight or flight? That's the big question now, isn't it? You may feel invincible, tucked away behind your cozy character sheet, but your PC is out there on the line, and they are damn well mortal. Remember back in Chapter 2, when we told you not to get your character killed? Consider this your second warning. Often, it's a better bet to run away and fight another day, assuming you're fast enough to escape whatever thing is nipping at your heels. Often, it's best to just meld into the shadows and be all quiet-like. Before releasing the safety on your pulse rifle, always ask yourself, is it worth it? Sometimes you have no choice. Sometimes that alien thing you thought was right behind you is already waiting for you in that dark corner you thought was safe. Just coming face to face with an alien monstrosity can turn your mind to jelly. You may only have a split second before the beast dismembers you and crushes your skull. And alien species aren't the only danger. People on the frontier are jerks. Sometimes someone just sticks a gun in your face. When backed against a wall, you damn well better fight. When someone or something comes for you, you need to be able to defend yourself. And here's how. Maps and zones. A conflict in the Alien role-playing game is typically played out using a map of the starship, colony, or whatever location your characters happen to find themselves fighting for their lives in. The map is divided into zones. A zone is typically a room, a corridor, or an area of ground. How big a zone is varies, from a few steps across up to about 25 meters. A zone is generally smaller in a cramped environment than in open terrain. In official scenarios and other material for this game, zones are usually indicated on a location map. In random encounters created on the fly, the GM can make a quick sketch of the area or simply describe it. Although maps can be useful, you can always choose not to use them and let certain conflicts play out in the theater of the mind. This can be a good solution in close quarters conflicts between a small number of combatants. Borders in line of sight. Now, I told you we're not going to get lost in the weeds, and don't worry. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, you duped me! What dupery is this? You told me this wasn't a super crunchy game. It's not super crunchy. But there are things to consider. The border between two adjacent zones can be opened or blocked by a wall or bulkhead. A blocked border can have a door or a hatch, as indicated by the map, allowing movement between the two zones. Open borders don't block vision or movement. A blocked border generally blocks line of sight, even if there's a door or hatch in it, unless you're actively standing by the doorway and peeking through. Broad descriptors. General ideas for you narrating, especially as the game mother, the GM. How things are going, where things are, what can you see and what can't you see. So we have, a map is a map. Here we have the zone. You can talk about a zone that you're in, which is a room, a corridor. It could be an entire warehouse, or it could be your personal quarters. In the Alien universe, time matters. Whether you are awaiting rescue on an alien world with xenomorphs stalking you, or Mother is counting down to the imminent destruction of your ship, you need to keep track of time. There are 3 separate units of time used in this game, depending on the situation at hand. You can see the table below. The exact duration of a round, turn, and shift can vary depending on the situation. It's the GM's job to track time and determine when another round, turn, or shift has passed. There are typically 4 shifts in a day: morning, day, evening, and night. So, again, you're given general terms that you can play around within. If we're talking about around 5 to 10 seconds. Its primary use is combat. When things need to, slow down, more methodical, super high stakes to make these decisions. A turn, 5 to 10 minutes. What's your primary use for that? Stealth, right? Oh, you wanna get down the zone of the corridor. You want to be quiet. Might take you 5 minutes to do, so you say it takes a turn. A shift, 5 to 10 hours. Recovery, maybe travel that you're not actively participating in. That kind of a thing. Preparation. Rounds, turns, and shifts. You have a lot of leeway when it comes to this. To imagine, create. If you want to specifically define it, if you say, I love D&D and everything is 6 seconds, there you go. But don't... how do I put this? Welcome, Raiders from Coffee Cat Presents. Hi, Awkward. Oh, there we go. I love the emotes here. Let's give a shout out. Let's give a shout out to Coffee Cat for coming in.
Lots of months.
Lots of months. Very much so, Coffee Cat. Thank you so much. Stream Elements is down, so I'll give you I'll give you the Twitch one. Hi, Raven. But I hope that Rebirth, a D&D tale, went well for you, and I look forward to hearing what happened, because I only was able to catch a little bit at the beginning. And also, Martlet Games, hello. Thank you for coming in the raid with Coffee Cat. DQ says, I've seen a few and I agree, switching it to 6s. 6 seconds, 6 minutes, 6 hours. Yeah. But yeah, hello, thank you everyone for coming over. We're going through the basic rules of Alien RPG. We're not getting it complicated. I'm not putting a bunch of terms on you. I'm not trying to overwhelm you, because I want to teach you this game and I want you to enjoy it and see how the pieces fit together and work. So if any of you do have questions or suggestions, or you say, oh yeah, I was in a game where this happened, please do share. I want this friendly, I want this conversational, and I want this as interactive as possible. Now, what about some zone features? Remember, a zone could be a room, a corridor. Zones can have various features which affect actions performed within them. Here are some examples. Cluttered. The zone is filled with debris or machinery. You must roll mobility when you move into the zone. Failure means you managed to get into the zone, but you've fallen down. It could be dark. The zone is dimly lit. Observation rolls in the zone get a -2 modification. Ranged attacks into the zone also suffer a -2 modification. You go, oh, no, details, oh, I can't possibly, your eyes roll back, and, like, your face is melting off, and, like, you're like, no, too much. Suggestions, examples, things with which you can base your own judgment around. Give it a broad idea, and if there's a modifier to things that happen, there is. And if not, it's not. Could it be cramped? A crawl space or narrow tunnel? In a cramped zone, you can only crawl, not run. You also cannot move or shoot past individuals next to you against targets behind them. And range categories. The distance between you and your opponents is divided into 5 range categories. See the table below. Engaged, right next to you. Short, a few meters away in the same zone as you. Medium, up to 25 meters away in an adjacent zone. Long, up to about 100 meters or 4 zones away. Extreme, up to about 1 kilometer. Again, you have plenty of play with this. In other games, it is like Cyberpunk measured in, you could go yards or meters if you wanted. D&D tends to be measured in 5-foot increments. Here you have general ranges that are going to allow you to describe things maybe more fluidly, or you can describe specific situations that could prompt questions about the scene or what could happen. So don't get caught up. Do you have to remember all 5 of these and it's exactly this? No. Can you come back and reference it? Sure. You see how it stands out? Each of these rules stand out and are their own thing to consider. Stealth mode. In the Alien role-playing game, much of the thrill happens before the enemy shows itself and bullets start flying. A key part of the experience is exploring unknown locations, with enemies lurking in the darkness. In the game, this is represented by what we call stealth mode. Stealth mode is played out in turns. In one turn, you can move 2 zones on the map and explore them, scanning for enemies and getting a superficial description of these 2 zones from the GM. If you're a team, you can explore the map individually or as a group. If you want to examine something in a zone more closely, such as accessing a data terminal, you need to stay one entire turn or even longer in a single zone. The GM has final say. In stealth mode, enemy movement is handled secretly by the GM. This is carried out each turn after your PCs have moved. NPCs must comply with the same rules of movement as PCs. Human NPCs can only move 2 zones per turn. Non-human characters may move faster or have other special rules. To handle NPC movement, we recommend that the GM has a second copy of the conflict map, hidden from view by the GM screen. Available, that's a separate thing. On this map, the GM can place tokens to represent NPCs hidden from the player's view. If your GM doesn't have access to a screen, she can simply track hidden NPC movement on a piece of paper. Active and passive enemies. Enemies can be active or passive, as dictated by the scenario or the GM. Active enemies are aware of you and are actively stalking you. Passive enemies are not aware of your presence and can be ambushed by you. In stealth mode, you will automatically detect passive enemies in the same zone or in line of sight above. If you make no attempt to move quietly, passive enemies will automatically detect you as well. All right, you walk into a room. Hey, Julia. Hey, what's going on? There you go. We do have these keywords attached to it, because in the minutia of combat, it could be important for describing things. But if someone's not trying to hide, you're going to see them. Because remember, in this game, it doesn't want you to roll unnecessarily. Rolls are... Not everything has to be a life or death roll, but the rules want you to roll when something matters. When there's something to lose. It could be to lose face, socially, or it could be to lose face because it got torn off. If you want to sneak past the passive enemies undetected or make a sneak attack, roll for mobility against their observation. You get a modification based on the distance to the enemy. See the table on the next page. Now remember, in contested rolls, whoever has the most successes wins, and the attacker can push, the defender cannot push the roll. Active enemies nearby may try to sneak up on you for a sneak attack. If so, the GM informs you that a threat is moving in on you, and then rolls mobility for the enemy against your observation. If you fail, the enemy gets a free attack against you. Read more about sneak attacks on upcoming. You cannot spot active enemies that choose to remain hidden and don't attack you, unless you have detected them using a motion tracker first, or the GM deems it obvious that you spot the enemy. For example, if you search the exact spot where it is hidden. So far, so good? Does it make sense? Contested rolls to sneak. If you succeed, you get a free attack against them before we get into any kind of initiative. Here's the mobility roll, depending on the range. And remember, we touched on the range here. A useful piece of gear in stealth mode is a motion tracker, such as the M314 unit. See page 134 for the 314. You can use a motion tracker once per turn, and each time you use it, you must make a power supply roll. The tracker will automatically detect the presence of any large moving objects within long range, up to 4 zones indoors, and extreme range outdoors, and let you know which zone they're in. We recommend that you mark the ping of movement from Motion Tracker by placing a token of some sort on the map. Note that the Motion Tracker will only detect moving objects. If the GM determines that your enemy stays still, it won't register. Detecting an enemy with a Motion Tracker doesn't mean you have spotted it and can engage in combat. For that, you need to be in the same zone as the enemy or have line of sight to it. If the enemy is small or well hidden, the GM can also have you make an observation roll to spot it. So, use markers if you need to. Otherwise, if you're familiar with the Alien series, have fun with this. Have a sound effect for it ready to go. So you're looking, you're stealthing, and something happens. Actions and initiative. When the enemy is revealed, stealth mode is over and actual combat starts. Stop counting turns and start counting rounds. The first step is to determine who has the initiative. Do this before anyone rolls dice for an action, except for sneak attacks. Because remember, if you're successful, you get a free attack before anything else happens. Grab 10 cards, numbered 1 through 10 in the custom card deck, which it's an accessory or you can come up with your own. There are 10 special initiative cards to use when drawing the initiative. If you do not have access to the custom card deck, a normal deck of cards works fine, with the ace counting as the 1. All the players taking part in the conflict, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, each draw a card, and the GM draws 1 card for every NPC. This is called drawing the initiative. The number on the card determines the order in which you act in the conflict, lowest to highest. Oh, Sirenscape does. Oh, very good to know, Australis. Pardon. Number 1 acts first, number 2 acts second, and so forth until everyone has acted. Place your initiative card by your character sheet so everyone can see in which order you act. The GM puts her initiative card in front of her. When all the participants in combat have acted once, the round is over, and a new round begins. The round order remains the same throughout the whole conflict. Drawing the initiative is only done once at the start of the first round. So in this case, you're like, there's the rogue going off with that high initiative again. What can you do? Our rogue always goes first. This is a lot more random. But there is a mechanic to change it. You never draw a new initiative card during a fight, but you can exchange your initiative card, and thus your initiative for the round, with another player character. This can be done at the start of the fight or at the start of the round, but never during a round. You and the other player character must be able to speak to each other to exchange initiatives. So that is the way to simulate fighting in duck behind the box. And then you swap so that before the person who shouted is presumably going to do something, his friend can duck behind the box. And so it's a mechanic that is a way to reinforce what we're going to be doing at the table anyway, especially in a firefight or in a tense situation. Grab my hand, do it now. And you can exchange initiative in effect that way. In typical conflicts, the GM draws one initiative card per NPC. If there are many NPCs and the number of combatants is above 10, the GM splits the NPCs into groups. All the NPCs with identical stats form a single group. The GM draws one initiative card per group instead of one per individual. All the NPCs in a group act at the same point in the round order. In what order they act individually within the group is up to the GM. Yeah, tag in. When it is your time to act in the round, you can perform one slow action and one fast action. Or two fast actions. A slow action usually consists of rolling for a skill. A fast action is quicker and doesn't always require rolling dice, though it might. See the lists of typical slow and fast actions on the next page. How these work is explained in detail in the sections Ranged Combat and Close Combat. Describe your actions. When it's your time to act, simply state which two actions you wish to perform, describe how you go about it, and roll dice to see if you're successful. Some actions will give your opponent the opportunity to perform a reactive action. Read more about this later on. Not going to worry about it now, but is there an opportunity for something? It depends. What do you want to do? Tell me. If I am your game mother, tell me what you want to do. Tell me how you want to do it. What's coming to your character's mind? How can we all ham it up and have an amazing bout of action in the midst of our exploration, our horror? How are we exemplifying the thrills of a movie such as this? So, a whole list of slow actions and fast actions. You're welcome to read these on your own. I'm not going to go over every single one of them. I'm presuming you have the book, whether it's the little one that's with the starter, or it's the full one that we're going over here. But, crawling is a slow action, right? And you're prone. To shoot a firearm, you gotta have a firearm. To administer first aid, you have a broken or dying victim. A fast action, draw a weapon. Block an attack. Retreat, aim. So you can aim and shoot a firearm. A fast action and a slow action. Or you can grab the wheel and drive. Two fast actions. And if you have something else that you want to pitch to your GM, please do. Well, these are lists, and we could consider these, hard items within the categories. Do you have something else in mind to give a go? Or a way to modify a slow action to be a fast action somehow? You're willing to pay a price. Can I shoot twice, but I'm willing to take a negative or something? You know, have fun, negotiate, make it dramatic. Yes, this is the core book, Woden. This is the one that you're going to be receiving. So mark your actions. As reactive actions such as blocking and Overwatch Fire break the initiative order, it can be hard to keep track of how many actions a combatant has performed in the round. A tip is to track this by turning the initiative card 90 degrees for every performed action. Turn it to the left for a fast action, turn it to the right for a slow action, and all the way around 180 degrees once both actions in the turn are used up. And if you don't want to do that, then don't do it. You have another token or marker, use that. If you got it, it's up in your brain case, there you go. If you help another player character or NPC perform an action, it costs you one action of the same kind, slow or fast. You have to state that you are helping someone before any dice are rolled. Helping others breaks the initiative order in the round. You can read more about that, about helping. Well, we covered that. To move during combat, you can spend a fast action to run from one zone to a neighboring zone, or between short and engaged range from an enemy or PC in the same zone as you. No roll is required to run unless it's into a cluttered zone. If you're prone, you can't run. Instead, you must crawl. Crawling works just like running, but it's a slow action. That means you can't crawl twice in the same round. In a cramped zone, crawling is the only movement possible. If you have an enemy at engaged range, you can't just walk away from them. Instead, you must retreat. Doors and hatches. You can open an unlocked door or hatch with a fast action. An unlocked door, or a locked door or hatch, can be broken down. A typical metal door or hatch can take 10 points of damage before it gives in. More sturdy doors require more force and also have an armor rating. In some cases, you can open an electronically locked door or hatch with a Comtech roll. Vehicles, movement is handled differently, and that's later. We're not going to worry about that right now. So got it. If engaged, you should retreat. What if you still like them? That is the hedgehog's dilemma, isn't it, Bane? Send an apologetic emoji, says Awkward Mancer. Awkward Mancer says, I take a picture of Xenomorph. It's a fast action? Oh no, I'm making sure it's a good shot. I aim as a fast action and take the picture as a slow action. There you go. That's another good way of thinking about it, Awkward Mancer. I mean, should you at least let them know why you retreated? You'd think. But I don't know, like, don't do it through a text message. Text message breakups are not proper form. Ambushes and sneak attacks. The key to winning a conflict is often attacking when your enemy least expects it. You can achieve this in several different ways. Sneak attack. When you stalk someone and your attack catches them unawares, it's called a sneak attack. First, roll your mobility versus your target's observation. And remember, the attacker, the one taking the action, can push their roll, and successes negate successes. So you want to have more than the other person to win whatever's happening. You get a modification depending on how close you want to go. You can see the table below. If you want to attack in close combat, you usually have to move within engaged range of your enemy. If you fail, your opponent spots you at your starting distance. Draw initiative. If you succeed, you get a free action, slow or fast, but not both, before you draw the initiative. Your target cannot block a sneak attack. Sneak attacks are always done individually by one attacker against one target. Ambush. A special kind of sneak attack is an ambush. You lie in wait for your enemy and attack when they come close. When you ambush someone, you roll mobility as described above, but with a modification of +2 since it is the target and not the attacker that is moving. Ambushes can be carried out by a group and against a group of targets. This follows the usual rules for stealth. The character with the lowest mobility skill level rolls for the attackers, while the target with the highest observation rolls for the targets. Again, each of these concepts is presented in its own rule right up here, ready for you to read. So if you're getting confused and you go, okay, well, we've covered a couple things, they do seem to reference each other, how do I go about this? Take it one page at a time, and there's the rules. Close combat. When you attack someone with your bare fists or a melee weapon, you use close combat skill. You use the close combat skill. Close combat usually happens at engaged range from your target. You can fight unarmed or use a weapon. Drawing a melee weapon from its sheath or a belt is a fast action. To attack an opponent in close combat, you need to be standing on your feet. If you're prone, you must first spend a fast action to get up before you can attack. While you're prone, standing enemies get a +2 modification on all close combat attacks against you. This is some really visceral art, by the way, to back up. And by the way, this is... The design of the book is great because, well, some of you might go, okay, this is a word salad. There's a lot going on here, and maybe on the first pass, you're not getting the concept. But you do make a bookmark in your brain going, all right, I know that there are rules for ambushes and sneak attacks. And you might be more of a visual learner. Well, this is a stunning piece of art that you can go, wait a minute, I know the art to look for when you're flipping through your rule book that's going to talk about ambushes and sneak attacks. So let the art work for you in this regard. Because a situation exactly like this scene might happen to you, despite you not wanting it to happen to you in Alien RPG. If your close combat roll is successful, your attack hits and you inflict damage equal to the weapon's damage rating on your opponent. Damage may be mitigated by armor. Read more about damage, armor, and critical hits on 98. For every extra success you roll, that's a 6 on a base die, choose one of these stunts. You inflict one additional point of damage. You can choose this stunt multiple times if you roll several successes. You outmaneuver your enemy and get to exchange your initiative score with them, taking effect next round. You can't go back to your earlier initiative. You knock or pull a weapon or other object from your opponent. You choose which. During combat, picking up a dropped object counts as a fast action. Your opponent falls prone. This stunt can only be used on humanoid opponents. You're gonna come up and say hi? You don't have your ball. I can't throw it to you to fetch. Here, come up. Say hi to everyone. Nah, maybe not. He's being coy. You pin your enemy in a tight clinch. See grappling below. This stunt can only be used on humans and synthetics. Blocking. If you are attacked in close combat, you can choose to block the attack to avoid being hit. Blocking is a fast action, and you roll for close combat. You must declare that you are going to block before the attacker rolls for their strike. For each success you roll, choose an effect below. Decreased damage, Counterattack. You perform a counterattack, dealing damage to the attacker equal to the damage rating on your weapon. You cannot spend additional successes to increase the damage of your counterattack. Or you could disarm your enemy. Oh, Australis? Yes. It's beautiful. And the way that it's laid out makes it easier to go through the books and to reference things. It's great because it, again, for visual learners, and it's good for references, and it backs up the point that is being made on that page. Typically, NPCs don't block attacks. The GM can override this rule, however, when dramatically appropriate. You can read about these other skills. I'm not going to read every single one. You get the gist, and you know that it's here. There's also a very well-written example for you to go through. So if you're the type you go, all right, I get it. Yeah, and all the blocks of text are there, all the rules. I want to see it in motion. You are getting a tutorial playing out in each of these examples with the same recurring characters. By the way, alien creatures can grab you or attach themselves to you in nasty ways. Now, what about ranged combat? Ooh. So we have two characters in one zone looking at another zone for something that might be incoming. And this is probably a short range away. Now, do I know exactly how many meters? No. But I can now describe if something comes through that door, this gun is going to be firing at short range. If they see it down the hallway at the end of that zone, that's probably medium range. Shooting from one zone, this warehouse area, down to the end of the hallway, which is another zone. Now, do I know specifically how many meters that is? No. But we can describe things broadly. Let's practice with the terms, and let's create examples. And you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. What this hallway could actually be long range. But that's for me as the GM to describe to you. Or for you as the player to say, you know, I want to set up some kind of an Overwatch in this warehouse down the hallway. What's the range I'm looking at? And then, of course, that's when I have the Xenomorph pop in from a vent. As we can see, there's vents here. Pops in from the vent above them and is actually engaged. Congratulations. Ranged combat. When you shoot at someone from a distance, roll for ranged combat. You need to be able to see your target. You also need a ranged weapon, even if it's simply something to throw. The weapon tables in Chapter 6 describe a variety of firearms, and you'll see it. I'm not getting into it. I don't want to put a bunch of numbers and other stuff in front of you. Do you have a ranged thing you can throw or pew-pew or sling or whatever? Cool. This is going to be getting the thing from where you're at to where that other thing is at. To draw a gun from a belt or holster or a rifle from its sling is a fast action. Firing a weapon is a slow action. And you'll see there's the throw. Draw should be... Oh, no, I'm sorry. Throw was a slow here. Draw was... Yeah, draw a weapon. So they're reinforcing these actions later on. If you go, oh, that's right, I need specifically how to reference ranged combat, but you don't have to go to ranged combat and another chart. They're telling you here. Thank you, Free League. This is good. This is great. Thank you for reinforcing it and making it easy to go back and reference. If you take your time to aim carefully before squeezing the trigger, you get a +2 to your attack roll. Aiming is a fast action. If you do anything else except shoot your weapon after you have aimed, or if you are hurt, you lose the effect of the aim and you need to spend another fast action to aim again. The weapon tables in Chapter 5 indicate the range of each weapon, i.e. the maximum range category at which the weapon can be used. The farther away your target is, the harder it is to hit. At medium range, you get -1, at long you get -2, at engaged you get -3 because it's hard to draw a bead on an opponent that is close. You don't get this penalty if you fire at defenseless or at a defenseless or unwitting enemy. Instead, you get a +3. Target size: firing at a large target, such as a vehicle, gives a +2. Firing at a small object, such as a small hatch, a handheld item, or a chest burster, gives a -2. It's a very specific reference. And remember, with any of these modifications, negotiate with your GM. This is your story to tell. Don't get lost like, oh, there's a chart and we have to exactly follow it. These are suggestions. Some of them might be stern suggestions, but they're suggestions all the same. And add up your bonuses, subtract your penalties, and whatever you're left with, go from there. So you build your dice pool, right? Your ability plus your skill. In this case, it's ranged combat. So let's say that is 5 dice. Just from that, you're a pretty good shooter. You have 5 dice just from that initial dice pool. You're a little stressed, though. You have 2 stress dice. All right, so our dice pool is 7. 2 of those being stress dice. But we're rolling 7 dice. I hope we can get at least 1 success. And we definitely don't want a 1 on our stress dice, because then a panic can happen. I know, right? Meow. You didn't even bring your ball back. Oh, you did. It's a cosmic cat toy here. All right, ready? Oh, where'd you go? He already ran out to... Here, go get it. I'm sure he'll find it. He's not the brightest bulb in the matchbox. We'll put it. I mean, bless his heart. He's a beautiful and loving and loyal cat. But bless his heart. So, we have our 7, and then we'll go back and say, all right, well, yep, you are shooting at long range, so we take away 2. So now we have 3 base dice and 2 stress dice. Did you get it? I threw it. Where's your Raichi ball? Where's your Raichi ball? I know, Meow. It's out there. I'll get it for you on the next break. You gotta chill out for right now, okay? However, we aimed. And so, despite it being long range, we're gonna get our aimed shot back. And now we're back up to 7 dice with all of our modifiers. Hi, Critter Misfit. Waving with my base dice. So, roll it. Brrr. None of your stress dice came up with a 1 or the facehugger symbol. Awesome. However, none of these were 6s. None of these were 6s. And so there's no 6. This is a failure. So you do not hit your target, which is probably the best failure you could hope for. Instead, you might have accidentally hit a control panel or a window leading out to the vacuum of space. And you say, I don't want that to happen. And you push your dice roll. Well, we had no successes. So we're going to scoop them up and we roll them. However, because we pushed, we're a little bit more stressed. But that's another opportunity for a success. And in this case, we get 2 successes. And it doesn't matter if it's on the stress dice or whatever. We get in total 2. Awesome. Let's carry that forward. If your attack hits, so we have 2 successes, we hit. It resolved at all. One of our successes is absorbed in the congratulations. You did the bare bones minimum of what you wanted to do. Cool. Now you're floating 1 extra success. If your attack hits, you inflict damage equal to the weapon's damage rating on your opponent. For every extra success you roll, choose one of these stunts. You inflict 1 additional point of damage, and you can choose this multiple times. You pin down your enemy. PCs need to make a panic roll. NPCs instead miss their next slow action. You position yourself and get to exchange your initiative score with your enemy, taking effect next round. You can't go back to your earlier. Your target drops a weapon or other handheld object. You choose which. Your opponent falls to the ground or is pushed back, for example, through an airlock. Hello, Crusader. When I'm stressed, I sometimes want to go into the vacuum of space. You'll definitely cool down if you're getting kind of heated and you're stressing. A nice brisk spacewalk will absolutely cool you off. And so in this case, we gotta get this thing down, and that's extra damage. Or if we say no, get back, because you have to shout dramatically. Remember, have fun with this. You're making a movie. We are action stars who could die at any moment in the script, even though it's not scripted per se. Lean into it. Have fun. I will describe to you. And the xenomorph's head comes in. And that's when you crack. Or whatever. Oh, no. Hi, xenomorph. Hello, apex predator. How are you? Meow? Can I get a meow? No, you just want pets? Okay. That's fine. Oh, yeah, it's a breathtaking view, Australis. Yeah, ambushed. See, look, living examples of the rules. I didn't hear her come in, and she got first attack, which was kind of a nuzzle. And now we have cat butt, so it's a stream. So in this case, we have the woman here who set up Overwatch. Pow! But maybe instead we want to push this thing back through. So the first hits. And then the other success is assigned to pushing back the opponent. And so we tell our GM the first hits, and I want to spend my second success pushing the enemy back. Because my partner over here, dude's going to roll out and run to the button to seal the doors on both ends of the corridor. So yeah, we tagged the alien, but we don't want it to necessarily bleed out everywhere, because that could be catastrophic. So there is a tag, but instead we would rather just seal it off and continue running or doing whatever. So that's the plan. Roll. Bap, bap. First one is the success. Second is the knockback, because that's what we chose. And then on dude's initiative, he's going to roll out and... And now you live another turn. Another 5 to 10 minutes, hopefully. Is this making sense? It's the same concept as skills, slightly different ways that you can... Yeah, the cat was in engaged range. And now I could still reach out and touch her. I could say maybe short range. If I'm being lazy, then it's short range. Because I don't want to get up right now. Now, there are some extra rules if you want to do something specific. You are very welcome to read these. There are some specific interactions that you can read, and they have their own little charts here. Again, this is very well laid out to break up the info and to make it easy to see and easy to read. Full auto. Weapons listed as fully automatic fire can fire long bursts at full auto. Weapons listed as fully automatic can fire long bursts of full auto fire. This counts as a normal ranged attack, but with a few differences. You get a +2. Your stress level immediately increases by 1. Add the stress die to your roll for the full auto burst. You can distribute any additional successes you roll beyond the first to secondary targets within short range. So that lets you spray around. You can take cover. There's a note about ammo. Remember how I said you don't have to just keep track of every single bullet? Pardon. Most firearms in the world of Alien have large enough magazines that you don't need to worry about counting individual bullets. However, when the tension rises, you risk wasting ammo and emptying your magazine, at the worst possible time. This is simulated in the following way. Whenever you fire a weapon, by the way, if you remember, this was mentioned before. So if you're curious about it, it would refer you specifically to that later. Or if you're reading this now, you're like, oh yeah, this was brought up and it's reinforcing the concept. Whenever you fire a weapon and roll one or more ones or failures or face huggers on your stress dice, you have emptied your magazine after the attack and need to reload, in addition to making a panic roll. Reloading is a slow action. You need to keep track of how many full reloads of ammunition you carry. So that's what you're tracking. I know that I have enough pews for my pew broadly, and if you mag dump because you stress out and panic, you got to spend part of your next turn to fix that. You can set up an Overwatch, and we introduced a concept with that here. It's here. You can read about it. There's an example. You got the book, and if not, I know a guy who can get one for you. You know, if you want to support a small business, I won't turn it down. But also, if you have a friendly local game store, I would love for you to support that store as well. So, if you don't, and I can earn that business, let me know. I'll get a copy of Alien out to you, and you get the Discord, you get the support, you get to talk to people about it. You could probably even find a game with other members of this community to play with or run for as well. So you get the whole shebang with the book, not just the book. We're getting into damage, critical injuries, healing, and then we have stress and panic. So I'm going to finish this segment with going over the basics of what happens if you get a pew where it's not supposed to be. And then we can get up and take another quick break. And then we'll get into the stress level and panic of people. Because this is... this is the big thing. It's not just, oh yeah, D6. It's a D6 game. It is, but the stress is really what makes things spicy and can affect your decisions. Okay? So you run the risk of being injured in combat. Everything from exhaustion to bleeding cuts and broken bones is summarized as damage. How much damage you can take is determined by your health score. When not injured, your total health is equal to your strength. Talents can modify your maximum. And that was covered in character creation before, but here again, beautiful. It's mentioned. Thank you. To protect yourself from harm, you can wear armor. The effectiveness of a piece of armor is represented by its armor rating. You can only wear one suit of armor at a time. When you take damage from an attack, pardon. When you take damage from an attack, roll a number of base dice equal to your armor rating. Each success you roll lowers the damage inflicted by 1 point. The armor roll does not count as an action for you. And so your armor could negate. So I guess in that previous example, because xenomorphs have a tough shell, its armor, I might get 6 dice to roll or more for a xenomorph. If I ended up getting 3 successes, the 2 successes from here would well, it'd make those 2 characters sad. I'm sorry, the pushback may still happen, but it lowers the damage. Armor does not count as an action for your recovery. When you are no longer broken, you recover 1 point of lost health per turn of rest. So that's a way to cinematically, you got some cuts and bruises that, it stings in the moment, it's distracting. Kind of like how hit points is kind of like, yeah, it's physical, but it's kind of a mental fatigue and everything. Similar in that vague regard. Critical injuries can still affect you after all your health is restored, however. Now, if you drop to 0 health, you are broken. In effect, taken out of the action, immediately roll for a critical injury. If you're not dead, you can crawl and mumble through the pain. You can't perform any other actions, and you can't roll for any skills. You can't go below 0 health, but each further attack that causes damage will give you another critical injury. Getting back up. Being broken is not fatal in itself. I mean, how many days have we had where we're like, you wake up and you're like, I'm broken right now. Only critical injuries can actually kill you. There are 2 ways to get back up after being broken, assuming you're not dead. First aid. Someone can help you back onto your feet by administering first aid to you using the medical aid skill. This is a slow action. Certain medical equipment can give bonuses to the roll. If the roll is successful, you get back up immediately, regaining health equal to the number of successes in the skill roll. Administering first aid to someone who isn't broken has no effect. So the scratches and the boo-boos, that's not this, like, this is getting up from, like, I don't know, that you have some sci-fi like insta brace for a broken leg kind of a thing, right? But it, putting a Mickey Mouse band-aid on your scratch isn't really gonna get you back up into fighting form. On your own, if you're broken and no one is around to help you, you automatically recover 1 point of health after 1 turn has passed, and can then get back up on your own. And remember, that turn is 5 to 10 minutes. GM discretion, unless you've all agreed on something otherwise. The fellow form failed stealth check. You can crawl and mumble. That's me in the morning, says Awkward Mancer. Hi, Tony. Good to see you. Welcome back. I'm not broken. I'm just a little unwell. Yeah. The coup de Gracie. The coup de grace. A broken character is defenseless. If it's a human being and you want to kill your target outright, you must fail an empathy roll. Roll for the attribute only without stress dice. Whether or not you succeed at killing your target, you increase your stress level by 1. Killing in cold blood is not that easy. If you have the Merciless talent, you can kill defenseless enemies without this negative effect. Critical injuries. As long as you still have health left, damage points represent fatigue, bruises, or smaller cuts. Painful to be sure, but possible to overcome. Critical injuries represent a much more dangerous form of injury. These can maim or kill you. When knocked down to 0 health, roll a d66 on the critical injury table on page 100, the next page. If you suffer a critical injury listed as fatal, you must make a death roll when the listed time runs out. A death roll is a roll for stamina, but you cannot push the roll and you are not allowed to roll any stress dice. If the death roll fails, you die. If you succeed, you linger on, but you must make another death roll when the listed amount of time has passed again. To save your life when you have suffered a fatal critical injury, someone must give you first aid before you fail a death roll. First aid is a slow action and requires a medical aid roll. Note that some critical injuries are so severe that a negative modification is applied to the medical aid roll. That's the polite way of saying you can't sew hamburger back into a cow. Maybe you can if you're super good, but if you recover a health point by yourself after one turn, see above, before you fail a death roll, you can try to give yourself first aid, but you get a -2 modification to the roll. Each character who attempts to treat you can try only once. To get a second chance, better medical equipment is needed. And that is the repetition of what we learned when we were looking at just basic skills. Of, I want to open a door, not I want to try and solve this compound fracture by pulling on my friend's arm to get the bone back in place. Broken. If you are both broken and have sustained a fatal critical injury, or several, 2 separate medical aid rolls are needed. One to get you back on your feet, and another to save your life. These 2 rolls can be made in whichever order you prefer. It's simply telling you gotta resolve both conditions. Instant kill. Note that there are 4 critical injuries, 63 through 66, that kill you outright. If you roll any of these, your character shuffles off their mortal coil. No death roll is allowed. Sure you can. Just feed the hamburger to the cow for dinner. It is just a slow process. Hey, have a good night, Hunter. Thank you for popping in. Critical injuries. So they're here. The D66 is 2 6-sided die, and then you just look. It's not a one die with 66 sides. So if you have a black and a white one, and you say the black number is always the 10s and the white number is always the 1s, roll your 2d6, and if it comes up as 4 and 2, it's the answer to everything, right? 42. You have suffered a crushed foot. It is not fatal. There is no time limit. You can't run. You can only crawl while under the effect of a crushed foot. And the healing time is 3d6 days. Mind you, there might be some scientific shenaniganery here and there. This is not magical healing like you get in some sci-fi and in most fantasy RPGs. It's going to take time. And you can get some pretty nasty stuff. You're winded, you're stunned, you have a punctured lung, you have ruptured intestines. Yeah, exactly, DQ. It's like rolling percentile, but with 6s, not the 10s. Technically, a heart stab is not as fatal if you get a trauma team on hand. But the 63 through 66, disemboweled, crushed skull, pierced head, impaled heart. Well, if you're disemboweled, the effect is instant death. If you get a crushed skull, your story ends here is the effect. A pierced head, you die immediately. Impaled heart, your heart beats for the last time. There's a little bit of humor. In horror and in situations like this, sometimes having those moments to breathe and just be able to laugh, even if it's in the face of something terrible, can help us as the player. Like, I lost my character, but that was actually kind of funny. Oh, the Walking Dead, yeah, which is also by Free League. So there are some mental traumas as well. The death of a PC can be traumatic, but try not to see it as a failure. Instead, consider it a dramatic peak in your story. A moment to remember, a fallen comrade to mourn, and then get back into the action as soon as possible. In cinematic scenarios like the one included with the starter kit, the GM will generally have another character NPC ready for you to play. Healing, care, health points, it's there. Read about it. Little blurbs. We're on 101. This is Alien RPG 101, everyone. But I'm going to get up. I'm going to go stretch a little bit. I'm down on my water. So I'm going to go top off again. And when I come back, let's talk about stress and panic in our final segment of our workshop. In between this and the next, if any of you want prize capsules, I'll be happy to pull them. There's a ton of excellent stuff still to be pulled. And if you want to get in on our Tower to Tower event, there are spaces open in there, which is an amazingly generous offer to you all. If you go to our Discord and take a look at it. So I will return in just a little bit. Maybe I'll pop back outside and refresh myself and see the moon again. But I'll be back shortly, everyone.